Introduction. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Of all the doctrine of Suttanta, of Buddha-Dhamma, the Four Noble Truth, Katu Ariya Satya, stand out predominantly as they are the most important and essential teachings of the Buddha. Similarly, the doctrine of Paticcasamuppada comes only as second place after the Katu Ariya Satya. Those who attain Sotapatti, Sagadagami, Anagami and Arahata Magga and Pala can do so firstly only by breaking away the links in the chain of Paticcasamuppada, and secondly by complete apprehension and realization of the Four Noble Truths. Vipassi Bodhisatta, the even before coming Buddha, after deeply and seriously contemplating and meditating on Paticcasamuppada for several times, starting from the end to the beginning, and from the beginning to the end, eventually attained the penetrating knowledge of Asavakayana, enabling him to totally exterminate avidya and tanha, and finally attain the supreme enlightenment. Our Gautama Buddha, following the footsteps of the foregoing Buddhas in the manner deeply and seriously contemplating and meditating on the same doctrine for several times, from end to the beginning, and from the beginning to the end, eventually having terminated, uprooted avidya and tanha, finally attained Buddhahood, in which was heralded by the great events such as earthquakes and other phenomena. Watertight doctrines. In the Tipitaka's Pali Canons there are some Suttantas which may be subjected to criticisms by some non-Buddhists, but the doctrines of Satya of Paticcasamuppada are above controversy, criticisms and disputes. Patana, the seventh book of Abhidhamma, is held in high esteem in Abhidhamma Naya for the attainment of Paticcasamuppada. For those who are already Aryas, Arahants, so is Paticcasamuppada vitally important. For the ordinary worldling, for the elimination of 1 Sakaya Ditthi, 2 Sasata Ditthi, 3 Udecha Ditthi, 4 Uhetu Ka Ditthi, etc. The elimination of ditthis, wrong views, is so essential for the attainment of Sotapatti Magga, the first stage of liberation to arahantship as a stream winner, from where the higher stages are yet to be attained. It is noteworthy that the total elimination of these diti, when diti is said to be eliminated, vichika cannot stay behind. It goes along with diti in their elimination. Simultaneously, 4 wrong views will set a common ordinary worldling, puttujana, free from the danger of falling into apayagati, woeful abode in the next existence. He will be born in Sugati, higher plane, for only 7 more existences. This doctrine of Paticcasamuppada, causal genesis or cycle of rebirth, principle as it is known in English language, was expounded by the Buddha to free the ordinary worldling from the shackles of wrong views and attain its eventual freedom from falling into apayagati, woeful abode. It is the doctrine which minutely shows to wit when this exists, that comes to be, with the arising of this, that arises, when this does not exist, that does not come to be. This statement can be shown in modern form. A exists, B comes to be, A arising, B arises, A ceasing, B does not come to be. It shows the endless occurrence of related events according to the law of dependent origination. The doctrine itself is composite, watertight, and is above all other controversies, criticisms, and disputes. Paticcasamuppada is a weapon against ditthi. The doctrine defines and describes the causation of khandhas and its causal effects, as it is the prerequisite of those intending yogis to be in possession of knowledge of panchakhandhas, 5 aggregates, in about the same way that traditionally a schoolboy is required to have complete knowledge of his multiplication tables, like 2 times 2 equals 4 and so on, up to 16 times if he is truly intent upon learning multiplication and division. Similarly, if the yogi is truly intent upon attaining Magga and Phala, he must in the first instance possess the knowledge of this doctrine, i.e. cause and effect, and unless he is in possession of this, he cannot expect to be able to disentangle himself from the evils of various ditthis, and unless he can set himself free from the evils of vicious ditthis, he cannot be expected to be able to attain even the Kula Sotapanna stage. However, he will gain merit by meditating on mind and matter, but he will not attain Magga and Phala because the ditthis will stand in the way as principal obstacles or hindrances towards Magga and Phala. It is definitely stated by the Maha Thera Sayadaw that without fully comprehending this doctrine, one can never be expected to be able to attain even the first stage of enlightenment. It means that with the exception of two bodhisattvas, Buddha and Paticcasamuppada, nobody can become possessed by the true knowledge of Paticcasamuppada by oneself. And as ordinary worldlings become entangled in the 60 kinds of deities, being like a matted ball of thread, like munja grass, and unable to escape the unhappy, ruinous state of samsara, round of rebirths. In the olden days, this doctrine was available in Pali only, i.e. Nidana Vaga Samyutta, Mahavaga and Vibhanga in Abhidhamma. Regarding the commentaries, was fully dealt with in the Visuddhimagga and Samoha Vinodani. It is understood that the Nisaya translation of the former was available in the first era of Ava, while the latter was only available in the Amarapura era in the form of palm leaves, which were not accessible to laymen, neither were easily comprehensible except by the Pali students, who were mostly monks. Hence they were generally confined to the archives of the monasteries, where they were enshrined and respected as images of the Buddha. In fact, the whole Pali text, Avijja, Pachaya Sankara, etc., were learned by heart by most every male or female Buddhist, and is recited morning and evening before the shrine of the Buddha during the period of devotion to the Buddha as a daily routine, without fully understanding the intrinsic or the meaning of the doctrine. It is the true state of affairs as far as Paticcasamuppada is considered, since the pagan period up to the present day Buddhist Myanmar. There are, of course, exceptions which may be negligible. It was Maha Thera Ledi Sayadaw who brought Paticcasamuppada to the fore by preaching as well as writing Tipanis, expositions, in language which is easily understood by the lay people. His had a considerable effect on the people, and since then the significance and essentiality of the doctrine has been gradually realized by them. The late Maha Thera Ledi Sayadaw wrote more than 50 Dipanis, books, in most of which Paticcasamuppada was more or less shown or explained. After the post-war years of the independence of Myanmar, thanks to the Buddha Sasana Council, the Burmese translation of the Pali canons have been available, and from such translations it can be said that considerable benefits has been derived. It is also to be rejoiced that quite a number of Vipassana centres are being open, and the number of those who take interest are increasing day by day. However, it is to be regretted that almost all the centres have become sectarian in their outlook and in accordance with their own familiar methods, with little or no regard to the central core of Vipassana, i.e. Samudaya Dhammanu Pasiva Viharati. Bhikkhu dwells contemplating on arising and passing away of Kaya, Vedana, Citta and Dhammanu Supassana. It is also to be regretted that the two most important and essential doctrines, i.e. Katu Ariya Satya, Four Noble Truths, and Paticcasamuppada, are screened from view. In other words, there are no teachings or even a single word as regards these two most important doctrines is heard in most of these meditation centres. It is lamentable, firstly, that Paticcasamuppada, for the purpose of elimination of ditthi and vicikicca, and secondly, Katu Satya, for the realization of Magga and Phala, are not found to be held in their rightful planes. It will not be wrong to say that these two essential doctrines of the Buddha are woefully neglected. There is one fact which the writer, with the best of intentions and due respect to those well-intending aspirants, cannot overlook to mention, is that the methods is vague. In most of the meditation centres are more in line with samadhi, samatha, by giving greater significance to anapanasati samadhi. It is also deplorable to find that meditators at these centres were being left stranded then and there without being taught to go further by switching at the right stage of their meditations from anapanasati samadhi to pure vipassana contemplation. As already mentioned previously, it was the late Maha Thera, Lady Sayadaw, who first made this doctrine popular among the lay people. After the Lady Sayadaw, it was the Mogok Sayadaw who tried to revive not only Paticcasamuppada, but also emphasized the essentiality and significance of the doctrine, which is fundamental in the elimination of ditthis. It was he who showed with a more comprehensible and convenient style how this Paticcasamuppada made its revolution and how its links can be broken by the help of a diagram which, as devised and introduced by him, it will be of benefit to the reader to have a glimpse of the life of Maha Thera Mogok Sayadaw, who busied himself for over 30 years in promoting Pariyati Sasana by giving night classes of Abhidhamma to the student monks at Mingala Taik Monastery in Amarapura, about 7 miles from Mandalaya. He told the writer that one day it occurred to him that he was just like a cowherd who, in spite of tending the cows, did not have the opportunity to use the milk given by the cows. He was the most celebrated teacher in his days, teaching Patana and Yamaka in the Abhidhamma Pitaka, and earned high respect in monastic circles. Otherwise, he was little known amongst the lay people. One day he left Mingun, the other side on Mandalay, where he seriously took himself to the contemplation of Vipassana until the outbreak of the Second World War. He was requested by the residents of Mogok to come and stay there, but the Sayadaw, without permanently making Mogok his home, returned to Amarapura in the cool season and went back in the summer. After the post-war onwards, the Sayadaw started preaching Vipassana sermons at Amarapura, Mogok, and lately at Mandalay. He shunned popularity and did not try to enlarge his circles of followers. He visited Rangoon only once, and that was the first and the last. 3 months after his return, he passed away at Amarapura. It was generally believed that he was an arahant, as evidenced by the formation of dhatu. When the body was cremated, some of the burnt bones formed into white, round, spherical objects of different sizes. The most amazing thing was the pupils of both eyes remained intact in spite of the cremation. When his remains were cremated, this ceremony was performed with great pomp and splendour, unparalleled within a period of 100 years. This was a great loss which is irreplaceable. The method employed and taught by the Sayadaw is compatible with the Satipatthana in the strict sense, and various suttas, Samyutta and Anguttara Nikayas, and Arya Satya. Did he not only teach but also explicate, modify, correct, and reform the deep-rooted wrong concepts and ideas since the forebears? For instance, in the Satipatthana Sutta, in spite of the fact in almost all the chapters, including Satyapada, there is the central core of Vipassana, i.e. Samudaya Dhamma Nupassiva Viharati, Vaya Dhamma Nupassiva Viharati, Samudaya Vaya Dhamma Nupassiva Viharati, which means the yogi must dwell upon meditating on the arising and passing away of the phenomenon. This is the Vipassana itself. Without it simply cannot be Vipassana, and is the most important and essential part and essence of Vipassana. It may be said that this part of Satipatthana is also almost overlooked and deplorably neglected in almost all the centres. Anapana is the best and popular method known, even a child knows it. Next follows the second method, i.e. Idiyapada. There are yet many Buddhists who cannot differentiate samatha from vipassana. When awareness, mindfulness, or nothing is employed in either anapana or idiyapada, it is still samatha and not vipassana, until and unless contemplation, samudaya vaya dhammanupasiva, on arising and passing away, is employed, or in other words, the yogi is said to be observing and contemplating anupassana. It is only when he tries to see with wisdom the nature of arising and passing away of khandhas every second and every minute that he is really practicing vipassana meditation. Although the norm, upada and vaya, or samudaya and vaya, is essence of anupadana as taught by the Buddha, this real essence of upada and vaya wax veiled in considerable obscurity by the overwhelming popularity of noting and by intensive out-breathing and in-breathing. It was Maha Thera's endeavour during the latter part of his life to lead the laymen to the path of true and unadulterated teaching of the Buddha in vipassana. As a matter of fact, the noble teachings of the great teacher have been exposed to the influence of various creeds such as tantric, mantric, mysticism, animism, and Brahmanism, and as such Buddhism of Myanmar can be termed as Burmese Buddhism, because in their ordinary daily life many Burmese Buddhists are drowned in the whirlpool of sasata ditthi, whereas in their application to meditation it will not be wrong to say that most of them are stranded halfway to anapanasati samadhi, from which stage true and pure vipassana is yet to reach. Late Maha Thera Mogok Sayadaw's aim and object was to correct and reform such deviated outlook, and also point out such views and misdirected intentions in almsgiving and taking precepts, and to impart what is most beneficial to those well-intending yogis. Here it means to say that meritorious deeds, i.e. dana, sila, are done with a view to attaining higher positions as universal monarch, king of devas, etc. in their next existences. Firstly, it is essential that the sasata, ucheda, or kariya, vihetuka ditthi must be dispelled from the mind of the yogi by nata prinna before he contemplates vipassana. Jnana prinna must come before tirana prinna, or in other words, the vipassana meditation first step must come first, and then followed by the second, which means that the actual practice must be done only after intending yogi has considerable knowledge of khandha, ayatana, satcha, and Paticcasamuppada, and when his view is initially by hearing sermons from a reliable vipassana teacher, free from the undesirable wrong views. It is worthy of note that the elimination of ditthi can be done by 3 steps. A. By hearing the teachings of a reliable teacher. This is nata pinna. And B. By entering into actual practice, tirana, prinna, and C. By totally uprooting pahana, prinna. These are also known as tadanga pahana, vikambana pahana, and samucheda panna. This can be done by learning Paticcasamuppada. Secondly, the mere exercise of in-breathing and out-breathing without further switching on to the contemplation on arising and perishing, anicca vipassana, is not conducive to attaining even satchanulomika jnana. In like manner, merely noting of mental or physical movements without observing or contemplating on arising and passing away of nama or rupa is merely sanya. Maha Thera, Mogok, Sayadaw laid great stress on arising and passing away, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Vipassana, when the meditation or contemplation is centered on arising and passing away of khandhas, 5 aggregates or components, so it naturally follows that where there is no meditation or contemplation on arising and passing away, it is not 100% vipassana. It is incomplete and incomprehensive without samudaya and vaya, as expounded in Satipatthana. It is the aim and object of Mogok Vipassana Panyavaro Society for the Propagation of Mogok Vipassana, to implement the propagation and revive the spread the 2 important doctrines, i.e. Ariya Satya and Paticcasamuppada. Before conclusion, the writer wishes to express his sense of gratitude to the Venerable Sayadaw U. Thera Aga Maha Pandita, who had kindly helped by way of reading the original typescript, and secondly the final proof. In fact, it is partly due to Sayadaw's reading of both original typescript and the final proof that the English spellings of the Pali words are faultless and conform to the present day international usage. U Than Deang, President, Society for the Propagation of Mogok Vipassana, Rangoon, Myanmar, September 11th, 1967.